Good morning. What is the biggest issue that you should concern yourself while being in academia or when starting your PhD, postdoc, or thereafter? Now, you might be getting all sorts of answers about it if you ask your professors. You might have your own views about it, but this podcast or channel is to give you a higher order thinking about how to think about your life in academia or even life in general. Well, I interact with many students. My own lab has students, postdocs of very different years, people who have been in industry and have thereafter come into my lab, those who directly, moved to my lab after college, uh, many who did some years of internship, a short internship either in industry or within our lab or other labs before joining as graduate students, postdocs. And of course, I interact with students and postdocs beyond my lab. If I invited for seminars of my colleagues, the department, and so on and so forth. So there is a large sample set in which you get a sense of what kind of issues people are struggling with. And surprisingly, nobody really articulates the main issue that they all struggle with. They always talk about the adjacent problems that are associated with it, but not the central issue. So let me come to what the central issue is and what you should concern yourself about and how you should plan your life according to it. And I think if you solve this problem, or at least are more actively engaged with this central issue, you would find yourself navigating the path in academia with much more poise, control, and a sense of being the primary agent in your life rather than just a passive flotsam. The central issue that you should concern yourself is how your timeline in life is aligning with your academic training timeline. What does it mean by timeline in life? Of course, everyone understands what's an academic training. You go for PhD, you go for postdoc, then after that, if things go very well, you become a professor or you go into industry or anything like that. But it's a long haul. But your life also goes by as you take all this training. And many people do not start thinking about it till much of life has passed through. So you have to remember that you are spending the most important, precious decade of your life. You are pretty much in your 20s, probably mid 20s, when you are starting your PhD. And you will be done with your training by the time you are in mid 30s. So 25 to 35. You can have 23 to 33, but let's give that decade. It's the most important decade. It's the most important decade because this is exactly the decade in which most of the people suddenly become productive members of society in terms of that they are earning for themselves. They find their life partners. You you plan to start your family. You also start realizing that your parents are getting old. Your friends who are very close to you, by the time you are in your 35, very few will remain because most people find their own things in life to do. And slowly and slowly, they start drifting away, get busier with their own families, their own ambitions, their own careers, and their own problems. So your life also goes by. And very frequently, I notice, in fact, it's such a common sight to behold that most students, postdocs, junior faculty have not given a thought about aspects of life which you would if you were outside academia, and think as if you are in an extended college phase, extended educational phase. And so you can think about all those problems much later. Many students have not even found their life partners. Those who have found their life partners do not decide to start their families. If they are planning to have their families, that thought hasn't even come to their mind that I need to make a decision about it. I see very commonly that by the time people are in their postdocs, they now suddenly find that, oh my God, we are in our 30s and we need to start thinking about all these problems all at the same time. All the problems come to you at the same time. Your career is at its most vulnerable. You need to be the most productive at the time professionally. You need to be writing grants, you need to be applying for jobs, you need to be extremely productive in terms of writing papers, presenting, so being able to mobile that you can go for seminars and so on and so forth. And at the same time, now you are worried that for women particularly, the biological clock is now suddenly getting, you know, ticking. Um, Again, I'm telling you things that most people will not tell you about. Okay, but for men too, the problem starts. It's not the problem. It's just that since they had not planned for it, all those planning come at the same time. The money is tighter because while you in 25 you had easily manage to live in an apartment with with flatmates or roommates, or you could share resources. You really were in a university, you probably did not need to own a car. uh, the university shuttle takes you everywhere. It's a village that you live in, and now suddenly you're finding that, well, I have not really acquired the financial assets to deal with all of those. So all of these will come, and then issues with the actual planning that you need to do with your life, family, partners, children, their education, the school districts. Where are you going to send your children to school? All those issues also start maturing, and they all come at a time when you're actually making the transition into getting out of training and taking a job either in industry or in academia as a professor. If you are telling yourself that by the time you're 25 you're actually an adult, and you should start asking these questions and not remain in this perpetual educational mode all the time, that you are not a perpetual student. When you are in your PhD, you are actually, even though you are technically a student, are in training as an adult, and should not think of yourself as a student. You are an adult human being, which means you have adult responsibilities to overtake, adult responsibilities to conduct, and start planning your life accordingly. You will find that the whole path of academic transition becomes much easier to manage. I'll give you some of my, I generally don't try to give my personal examples. I'll give you examples that I know of other people, of course, not really identifying those people. When I have seen students who are so clear about their life that they probably were in industry for a couple of years, and actually they come to academia during PhD when they did plan to have their family, when they wanted to have children, but they wanted a sense of flexibility, but also use that time to transition into a field where academia can provide a little bit of time flexibility, while obviously much lesser amount of compensation as compared to industry during your PhD. And uh, uh, and they were so clear-headed about it that they managed those 5 years of difficult time of child rearing during the PhD. And there were many, many of them, particularly the immigrant community. And I come from India. Most people who came to the US from India, they did not even have a clue that, oh, they'd even need to think about it. It's like they remain in this perpetual educational mode that they just have to think about all these problems later, not right now. And uh, and ended up becoming rather bitter when they have to now start making the decisions about marriage, uh, children, when they are at the cusp of their career transition. So the issues start coming. Why should I be making those sacrifices, and why should I be doing all of this? And then they put off those decisions later on, and then it becomes much more difficult. I know so many of students, and I mean postdocs and junior faculty, who have had to go for uh, very avoidable fertility clinics, um, and basically family planning, all alternative family planning, or alternate or family planning technologies, even though they had their life set in terms of finding a long-term partner much earlier. So why? Why do you have to subject yourself to that? Well, I think the main issue is that there is this sense of being in a university that makes you feel like a student. You can act like a student. You can dress like a student. You can go to your office, without a formal wear. You are obviously learning, and so you are in a class, sometimes teaching a class. The university is a wonderful atmosphere to live in, to be very frank. I enjoy it every single day, but at the same time it can continue to make you feel like much younger than you are, which is a very big positive, and it's a great thing to have. if you have also completed the responsibilities that you want to undertake as an adult. See, if you don't want anything of that, then this video is not for you. But for most people, they have in the back of their mind these plans, and they think that they will pick up and act on these plans when they complete the education. Let me tell you this: PhD is not education. PhD is exploration. PhD is not a degree, even though people think of it as one. It is it is a sense of award for a productive part of your, of your life. Okay, it is not a degree in the sense that you pass an exam and therefore you get a degree. Many universities may have that, particularly smaller universities where, oh, you finish some exams and you get a degree. Well, okay, PhD is not supposed to be for that purpose. Okay, PhD is supposed to be an independent exploration of a subject in a scholarly manner and creating a scholar out of you. Obviously, it is not education in a traditional sense that somebody is imparting you education and you absorb it and then you spit it out in an exam. No, it's not that at all, right? You should, by the end of your PhD, become, in some sense, a world expert of that particular very little niche problem. This is an adult job. This is not a trainee job in a sense that it is not a student of the way you think you are when you are in a high school or in college. So get that mindset out of your head, because I see it all the time. In fact, I see it 99% and of students, and the only exceptions that I really find in this scenario are students I who come to PhD after having a stint in outside academia. So they probably worked in industry for a few years, and they basically were with other colleagues then who start thinking about after college, oh, what's your plan, right? Where are you going to, who's going to be a partner? If you don't have a partner, you suddenly become anxious about, and you really want to find a partner. Once you have found the partner, then you want to start thinking after a few years, when I want to start a family. If I want to start a family, then obviously other questions start coming. Do I want to buy a house? Do I want to move into a place where my children would be safe? My children can have education of the kind that I think is necessary for them. What do I need in terms of resources, in terms of locations, in terms of availability of other people that I need to secure for those purposes? Those are adult conversations in your head, and they will not happen in your head. You think they are important, but they will not happen in your head unless you are in that situation. Okay, so when you go outside academia, you automatically are exposed to that.